We see it all the time, don't we? YouTube videos. Men and women in uniform violating rights, violating the Constitution, and going right to the arrest, going right to a search. This video is going to cover 10 or 11 different scenarios where you have to think about the Constitution first before you enact upon your authorities as a Border Patrol agent. Let's get right down to it. So during a routine checkpoint stop, a border agent searches a vehicle without consent or probable cause. Which constitutional right might this action violate? A, the First Amendment, freedom of speech. B, Fourth Amendment, protection against unreasonable search and seizures. C, the Sixth Amendment, right to a speedy trial. Or D, the Eighth Amendment, protection against cruel and unusual punishment. A, B, C, or D. It's going to be a possible violation of the Fourth Amendment, protection against unreasonable searches and seizures. Now, a lot of your colleagues have been doing the job for like a long time, so they might not even know what you're going to know for this video when you're out there in the field, taking your tests, doing your interview, or whatever, right? This is going to help you out a lot, so pay attention, okay? It's a Fourth Amendment possible violation, all right? Number two, an agent U detains a U.S. citizen for several hours without informing them of the reason. Which amendment could this impact? A, the Second Amendment, right to bear arms. B, Fifth Amendment, right against self-incrimination and due process. C, 10th Amendment, states' rights. D, Third Amendment, no quartering of soldiers. A, B, C, or D. If you said B, Fifth Amendment, right against self-incrimination and due process, there wasn't any due process held up for 7 hours, right? For several hours. So there's no due process. It means you got to keep going to process. You can't sit there and hang out for a while, detain somebody forever. You can't do that, okay? Now, there may be instances where it might be okay, but you need to be aware of what might happen, what might be charged against you for doing this to a U.S. citizen, okay? Border Patrol conducts a warrantless search of a home within 100 miles of the border. Which amendment might this raise issues under? A, Fourth Amendment, unreasonable searches. B, First Amendment, freedom of the press. C, Seventh Amendment, right to a jury trial. Or D, the Ninth Amendment, unenumerated rights. A, B, C, or D. It may raise an issue under the Fourth Amendment, which is A, for unreasonable searches, okay? Next one. A protester is arrested at a border demonstration without any charges being filed. This could violate what constitutional protection? A, the First Amendment, freedom of assembly. B, the Second Amendment, right to bear arms. C, Sixth Amendment, right to a public trial. D, the 14th Amendment, equal protection under the law. A, B, C, or D. So the person's at a border demonstration, okay? And he or she got arrested without any charges at all. This is in violation of the First Amendment, freedom to assemble. We all have that right to assemble, okay? So there we go. A foreign national is denied an attorney during interrogation. Which right may be at stake? A, the Sixth Amendment, right to counsel. B, the First Amendment, freedom of religion. C, Fourth Amendment, search and seizure. D, Seventh Amendment, civil trials. A, B, C, or D. It's going to be A, the Sixth Amendment, right to counsel. Now, all of my questions come in the form of may, possibly, could be, because we cannot determine objectively until it goes in front of a judge. The judge makes the final decision. If the judge says this was a violation, then it's a violation, right? That's why these are all may and possible clauses. You have to be aware of the Constitution, though, if you're going to wear the uniform. You just can't go out there doing things. You can't go by the old ways, when some guy, I've been here for 30 years and I know what I'm doing. Sometimes those guys do not know what they're doing. You see it on YouTube all the time. We get a lot of these violations of people's basic rights. Don't be that person doing that crap, okay? Here we go. An officer confiscates a traveler's phone and searches it without a warrant. Which amendment could be potentially violated? A, Fifth Amendment, due process. B, Fourth Amendment, unreasonable searches and seizures. C, Eighth Amendment, cruel and unusual punishment. D, the First Amendment, free speech. So again, think about that, okay? An officer, agent, confiscates the traveler's phone and looks through it without a warrant. It's going to be B, of course, right? It's going to be the unreasonable searches and seizures, which is the Fourth Amendment. You just can't go through people's stuff unless there's a serious situation happening. Otherwise, you cannot do that, okay? To help you even further, I have a test down below, a prep exam for you. 115 questions to date. 2,114 people have taken that test. Of that, 91% who take the actual test pass the first time. This makes it so your career is not delayed. If you really want to challenge yourself on situational questions, some math, some word grammars, and stuff like that, if you really want to test yourself, click the link, take your pretest, and get it going, and do yourself a favor by being prepared before you go take the actual test, okay? There we go. Agents use excessive force during an arrest at the border. What constitutional issue could be raised? A, Eighth Amendment, cruel and unusual punishment. B, the Third Amendment, quartering of soldiers. C, Sixth Amendment, speedy trial. D, First Amendment, free expression. So you have a person under excessive force at the border. So it's going to be A, which is the Eighth Amendment, cruel and unusual punishment. Now again, remember, maybe, possibly, could be, because the judge determines that, right? But you don't want to be just use your common sense, you know? It doesn't take 5 people to arrest one 90-year-old woman, okay? Just think about the situation that you're getting into, because when your colleagues are implicated on something and you're there, you're part of that bunch, okay? The Border Patrol pushes integrity hard. They push that hard because they know the situations you guys might be into. And integrity has to be paramount to every aspect of your job, okay? Here we go. A non-citizen is denied a hearing before being deported. Which constitutional protection may apply? A, the Ninth Amendment, restrained rights. B, Fifth Amendment, due process. C, First Amendment, free press. D, Second Amendment, right to bear arms. Didn't get due process, right? That's going to be B, the Fifth Amendment. Despite what you might hear in the news and so on and so forth, everybody, whether they are a citizen or a non-citizen, they are afforded due rights. You just cannot ship somebody off to somewhere else without due process. Now, you may have heard in the news, some people have done that. Well, now that person's being brought back, okay, because they have to have due process. Don't get caught up in that nonsense, okay? Just do your job and do it right, all right? A Border Patrol agent requires a person to answer questions under threat of arrest, even though the person refuses to speak. What right may be violated? This one here, before I even give you the answers, you should be able to tell me what the answer is, okay? A, Third Amendment, quartering troops. B, Fifth Amendment, protection from self-incrimination. C, Sixth Amendment, right to legal counsel. Or D, the Fourth Amendment to search and seizure. I'll read this to you again. A border agent requires a person to answer questions under threat of arrest, even though they refuse to speak. The Fifth Amendment protects you from self-incrimination. So the logic is that if a person talks, right, they don't want to help the agent, you, with your investigation upon them. They don't want to do that. So they choose the right to remain silent so they don't self-incriminate. So the lesson here you're learning your academy also is that not to push people to talk if they say, hey, I take the Fifth Amendment. Hey, I plead the Fifth Amendment. At that point there, you should assume no more conversation is going to take place. And again, and again, and again, don't get caught up in that. Don't let your ego take over. Once a person claims the Fifth, that's it. You're done. You may ask further questions, but don't be upset if they don't answer. They don't have to answer once they say they plead the Fifth Amendment. This happens all the time on YouTube with police officers, border patrol people. They keep pushing these issues. Once they're told the Fifth Amendment has been engaged or requested, they keep pushing it. Don't push it. It's done, okay? An agent targets travelers of a specific ethnicity for additional questioning. This could raise issues under which amendment? A, First Amendment, free speech. B, 14th Amendment, equal protection. C, Second Amendment, right to bear arms. Seventh Amendment, jury trials. A, B, C, or D? It's going to be the 14th Amendment, equal protection. People of a specific ethnicity, regardless, are still granted the right to be treated like everybody else of whatever, right? Still grant equal rights to everybody. It doesn't matter, okay? There we go. Next one. A U.S. citizen is held for a long period of time at the border without being charged or allowed a phone call. Which right is most directly involved? Is it A, the Sixth Amendment right to a speedy trial? B, First Amendment right to petition? C, Third Amendment, no forced housing of soldiers? Or D, 10th Amendment, state powers? So A, B, C, or D? Here's the key, guys, in the test. You'll see it. Long period of time, right? Long period of time. A, it's going to be A, the Sixth Amendment, right to a speedy trial. You can't keep people forever, right? You cannot hold up their freedom without PC, probable cause, right? For a long time. They are still granted a right to a speedy trial. So it may be the Sixth Amendment, okay? Here we go. Agents monitor the communications of travelers without a warrant or probable cause. What constitutional concern might this raise? A, the Fifth Amendment, due process. B, Fourth Amendment, privacy and protection from searches. C, First Amendment, freedom of association. Or D, the Eighth Amendment, excessive bail. A, B, C, or D? It's going to be B, the Fourth Amendment, privacy and protection from searches. So you're thinking, search? What do you mean by search? Well, because you're still in their communications. That's considered a violation of their privacy. Thus, it makes it a search. So you can't do that. And again, maybe, possibly, could be, probably, whatever, right? These are not absolutes, but these are logical understandings. Is what something could happen, then this happens, right? If you're doing this, then this probably happens, right? Cause and effect. The cause, you're in somebody's communications. The effect, you're probably violating the Fourth Amendment, okay? That's how you got to think when you do your test. You got to think with that kind of logic. Understand? If you think with that kind of logic, you'll be fine. But to make sure you're ready, take the 115 exam down below there. You get an instant grade on the test. You get instant percentage. You also get an email from me that's personalized, not a automatic responder. I answer within 2 days of every single test result that I get, and we discuss these things, okay? That's how it works. You guys, I wish you the best. I'll put also down there for you a link to some amendments for you too that might apply to your Border Patrol career, okay? Thank you guys and have a good day.